Happy Sunday, my friends. It has been over a week since we fellowshipped, and I didn't think about making a video, and I'm feeling pretty good to be able to process some green tomatoes, and I was like, make a video, Lippy. So, I'm going to get my tomatoes washed. In the meantime, I'm going to share where I am pulling this recipe from. And then we'll get back to canning green tomatoes for frying this winter. Yes, it feels great to be back. But I'm going to get me a stool. I'm going to have to sit on a stool to slice these tomatoes. So let me get them washed up, and we're using out the garden. And this is where I'm pulling my recipe from. You saw my stack of ball books? Well, this is the one that I chose because I've done this recipe many times. Now, if you actually have this particular ball book, you're going to find this recipe on page 92. And it's going to be listed as the dill green tomatoes. Keyword dill. Because we are going to preserve these green tomatoes according to the safety guidelines. And because we don't have onions, we don't have bell peppers, we don't have any low acid ingredients going in, we're going to omit 2 ingredients that the recipe calls for. So in this recipe, it calls for dill or dill seed. It also calls for garlic and bay leaves. So 3 ingredients. We're leaving those out because all we want to do is make a proper brine that is safe to consume and for shelf storage. So in the winter, we can have our fried green tomatoes. So that's the only thing I'm changing. Now, if you like fried dill pickles, definitely go buy the full ball recipe, meaning you would add your dill seed or your fresh dill, your garlic, and your bay leaves. I'm not going for fried dill pickles. I'm going for fried green tomatoes. And that's the only thing that is different. Our brine is going to be the same. So that's page 92 if y'all have this ball book. But I am assuming it's in more ball books. It's just called dilled green tomatoes. It's going to be the same recipe. So I'm going to move this over here so we can get started. Where is my rag? It does feel good to be back. But y'all, the garden doesn't wait for our setbacks. Our garden doesn't say, okay, we'll go dormant till you feel better. No, the garden is like, I'm here. You got to do something with it. Because I've put too much work into this garden, and so has my husband, Buddy, for us to just let it go stagnant while I'm recovering from a pretty rough illness. And I'm still not completely out of the woods. But guys, I got to eat food yesterday. Yes, and this morning as well. Little bit, but hey, a little bit is better than nothing. I'm getting my energy back, but how I know that I'm on the road to recovery is because I can drink coffee. And most of my friends know I am the queen of coffee. Guys, I went 8 days with no coffee. So today is the day I'm drinking coffee. I'm enjoying it. So I know I am ready to get this behind me and get on back into the kitchen, out into the garden, and wherever else I decide to go. We've got quite a few sliced tomatoes ready to go. Now we will be water bathing them in my digital pressure canner. It's a Presto Precise. In my canner, there is a notch here. You're going to bring the water up to the notch, and I did add a splash of vinegar. This is the first thing that you do in electric canner. We're going to plug it in. It's saying pressure can, but we will be water bathing this. There's our water bath setting. Then we're going to set the timer for 15 minutes because we are using pints. Now, I will be using wide mouth pints. You can't get a slice out of a regular mouth. So we've set our timer for 15 minutes for the water bath canner. Now it says to insert jars. And this is my pint jars that I have halfway full of water. Now this canner does hold 7 wide mouth pint jars. Here's our second jar. And like I said, I've got water sitting in these jars. In this stainless steel pot, now I am doubling this recipe. In the description, I will have a single vat, a single recipe for you guys. But I am doubling it. In this pot, there is 7 cups of tap water, 7 cups of white distilled vinegar, 5%. Make sure your vinegar is 5%. And I have a half a cup of pickling salt. We're going to bring this up to a rolling boil. Once it reaches a rolling boil, we will boil for 5 minutes. This ensures that the pickling salt is well dissolved and incorporated within the brine. But there again, this is a double batch. 7 cups of white distilled vinegar, 7 cups of tap water, and a half a cup of pickling salt. Now, if you're using a water bath canner and not an electric canner, you would be bringing your water up to temp, not a rolling boil, but hot, because we will be putting our tomatoes in hot jars going into, well, should I say warm, going into warm water. So you need your water, whether it's electric canner, which it does it for you, or your stovetop canner. You need the same ambient temperature. So warm jars, warm water. Don't put warm jars into rapid boiling water. Don't put cold jars into heavy warmed water. They both have to have the same temperature. It's just that easy. And make sure you put a splash of vinegar in your stovetop water bath canner. Once it reaches its warming temperature, then it's going to instruct you to remove the jars, drain that water that's in the jars, not what's in the canner. And then we're going to start filling the jars. That allows us time to get our brine to a boil and boil for 5 minutes. Now I'm fixing to go get my flats and I'm going to get my rings. I will be putting my flats in hot water, not boiling water, just hot tap water. It is my preference. It's not recommended these days, but as y'all know, it's recommended for me. So, oh, and let me show y'all something. I'm using my cutting board, but you see it doesn't move. That's because I have it resting on my bar mat. So, if you're wondering, because you can use a wet paper towel, but a lot of you have a bar mat now. Just put your cutting board on top of your bar mat and it won't go anywhere. The canner prompted me to fill the jars. I emptied the water out. Now, to ensure texture and crispness, I will be adding 1/8 teaspoon pickle crisp. A little bit more. I think I shied that one. Okay, I'm just going to do one jar. And that's going to give me security that they're going to remain that good crisp. And you got to make sure that your tomatoes are cut uniform. And you're going, well, some of them are too big. I'll show you what I'm going to do with those. I'm good there. There we are. Now I'm going to set it to the side because my brine has yet reached the temperature that I need. I've got 4 jars of sliced green tomatoes. Now I'm going to dice some because a lot of times we prefer the fried green tomatoes that is diced, especially with our peas, kind of like if you would dice a summer squash. I prefer them diced. Okay? And it really doesn't matter how you slice them. Just whatever way works for you. I don't want them too small because they'll mush. About that size. We're just going to fill the jar. And this will also become our fried green tomatoes. And what I've done with these large slices, I've cut them in moons. Therefore, I can fit them in my jar, and we can still have that sliced green tomato, only in a moon shape. I'm steaming y'all up. Okay, the brine reached a rapid boil. I allowed it to boil for 5 minutes. Now remember, y'all have heard me say this over and over. Make sure your utensils is stainless steel. Make sure that your pot you are using is stainless steel. Aluminum, no. Okay, now we're just going to put the brine in. I'm going to show y'all a little trick because it is hard to debubble rings. And what we're reaching is a 1/2 inch headspace. Okay, this is what I found. Now you can use a plastic knife to be able to go down the sides, because you see this chopstick that I use does not work well. Or if you have a canning tool, a debubbler, it works fairly well, but it's still hard to get down the side, right? This is what I have found that actually works. I'm going to take my sauerkraut, I call it a masher, because what we're trying to do is get the air up. And I have found if I go down and mash, see them bubbles that come up? Look at that. And I won't need to add any more water, I can tell. But by applying some pressure, that is going to be the best debubbler I personally have found when you're trying to process tomato slices. Now we're looking for a 1/2 inch headspace. And I need just a drop more. And I am there. We know that it is debubbled well using a clean vinegar rag, this is just a paper towel. I am going to thoroughly clean the top of my jar. I'm also checking for any nicks that I may have missed when I was washing my jars. I'm adding my flat. Add the ring, just finger tight, and set into the canner. Now, let's do one more using the rings. Look at them bubbles. Now we already know the chopsticks doesn't work that well. Now this may work since they're very small. Nope, not a fan. So I'm going to go back to this. And like I said, applying just a little bit of pressure, you're going to see those air bubbles come up. All right, I see a few more. Let me turn it. I'm good with that. Okay, it prompted us to fill the jars, which we have. We're going to hit next. 15 minutes heating the water. Now our lid goes on. We're going to lock it in place. And there we have. Now as you can see, it's sitting on vent. It is not sitting on pressure canning. If I was pressure canning, this would not be on just yet. And this is all we do. Water bathing. It takes it from here. It's going to heat the water. It will start processing, and then it will beep, and you'll see the word done appear here, and you are finished. It is now canning for 15 minutes. Now you can see the steam is coming out. If we were pressure canning, there would be no steam coming out of this side because we would add our jiggler to the canning setting. And then over here, you would actually see the lock come up as a standard stovetop pressure canner. Okay, while it's doing its thing, let's fry up some fried green tomatoes. Now, I have 5 here. This is the moons. I showed you guys, but this is just for a little snack. But you see, I've got it laid on a paper towel. This is the key to a really good fried green tomato, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to season with salt. Now this is a non-iodized salt. This is Redmond's. Then we're going to flip it over and we're going to repeat. And what this salt is doing, and it's not so much just for flavor, but it's going to pull the moisture out of these tomatoes. And that's what you're looking for. There we go. And we're going to let these sit about 10 minutes so we can get our oil heating up. Now we're going to get our dredge ready. And I'm just guesstimating, guys, for 5 of them. Let's go with about a 1/2 cup of self-rising flour. And then I'm going to add some yellow cornmeal. And what you're looking for is 3 parts of flour to 1 part cornmeal. Now this is where you can season it however you want. I will be using my Cajun seasoning. And there again, this is seasoned to taste. This is my swamp mix that I make. I'm also going to add some black pepper. Even though we have salt pulling the moisture out of our tomatoes, I'm still going to salt. And we're just going to give this a good mix to combine. Normally I would be using buttermilk. Since I don't have any buttermilk, we're going to use some 1/2 and I'm just using a plate, guys, because I've only got 5 slices. So I'm just going to add a little bit of 1/2 right into this plate. Now I'm going to tell you, we prefer the diced green tomatoes. One, you can cook a large amount in a deep frying pot all at one time, as well as if you're doing slices, you can only fit so many in a skillet. I don't deep fry my slices per se. I'll show you how much oil. Now I will be using peanut oil. You can use any oil. I would stay shy of like an olive oil because of the heat that it gives off. It will burn before it actually cooks. Stay with a standard oil like a vegetable oil. Anytime I fry, I use a peanut oil. There's no allergies here. But normally I would be doing this with buttermilk, and normally I would be doing it diced. There again, I can coat my diced tomatoes a lot better and adding it to the dry mix. But we're doing standard fried green tomatoes because a lot of you have asked. But you can use 1/2, or you can use some whole milk, a cup, and add a tablespoon of white vinegar. Stir it, set it to the side 20-30 minutes, and you've got semi-homemade buttermilk. I'm not going to do that. I just simply use 1/2. But normally we have buttermilk in this house. So I'm going to let these sit and rest. We've got our dredge. We've got our 1/2 buttermilk. And over here on the stove is my iron skillet sitting at a number 4. Remember, I've told y'all, I do not bring my oil to its frying temp of 350 to 360 on a high temp on the stove. I go with a medium temp and slowly bring it up, which also allows me time to let these tomatoes release all their juices so we can pat them dry. So it's sitting over there getting hot. I've got about a 1/2 inch of oil in my skillet, so it's going to just barely want to cover these tomatoes. Like I said, I'm not deep frying. If they were in the nuggets, I would be deep frying them, and we eat them like popcorn. Y'all seen me fry squash before like that? Y'all seen me a couple of years ago fry squash in the rings. It's really your preference, but you guys asked for fried green tomato slices, and that's what I'm gonna give you today. Man, it feels good to be back. Getting a little tired, but we're gonna rock this on out. You hear the beeping? It is done. So I'm just gonna let it sit just a couple of minutes. And there we have our preserved fried green tomatoes, or should I say tomatoes ready to fry. Now you're gonna see a little bit of liquid, but as this cools down, these tomato slices will also decrease. Here is our nuggets. Like I said, this is my preferred way to eat fried green tomatoes. Okay, it's time to fry. And I'm gonna take a dry paper towel, and I am just gonna get all the wetness off. You're thinking, well, you're putting it back into the half and half, which this really should be buttermilk. There we go. Now I'm just going to use my hands. We're going to get them well coated, and we're just going to dredge them. Move it to the side. Let's get us another one. And any leftover flour mixture I have, I will add to a Ziploc bag and set into the freezer. So when I'm ready to fry something else, I can add this to some more flour and cornmeal. And therefore nothing goes to waste. We're gonna move over to the stove. The oil is almost there. I'm testing it with just a little bit of flour, and I noticed that the flour particles went down. They should go in and float back up to the top with some bubbles to know that you are about 350, or you can use a thermometer and check your temp. I'm on a number 6. Okay, we're gonna double coat, just meaning I'm just gonna take this slice of tomato, put it back into the seasoned flour and into our oil, and it immediately starts frying. And as you can see, the oil is not covering the tomato completely. You don't want to cook your green tomatoes too fast. We're going to give them a flip. And it wasn't quite ready. This was the first one that I did. But if you fry too fast, the inside's still going to be kind of raw. And by frying them on a kind of a high medium, you're ensured that it's cooking inside out, and then it's going to crisp up. Look at this. Now this is a perfect fried green tomato. Y'all know it's time for quality control. I let them sit about 5 minutes, just so I don't get third-degree burns. And here, ooh, this is still warm, but I want y'all to listen to the crunch. This is still a little hot. Can y'all hear that crunch? Y'all, food tastes so good. I ain't had food in 8 days. I did yesterday. Today, I'm starving. but I'm on a special diet. So I'll probably eat these two and give the rest to Mr. Buddy. But oh boy, I've got 7 pints of tomatoes ready to fry this fall and winter. I have my brine sitting over here. I will be making probably another 14. Yes, I had him clear out 3 tomato plants. So that's going to yield me 21 pints of green tomatoes moving forward to the fall and winter and the beginning of spring. Because guys, this is one of our favorite side vegetables, if you will, for our peas and our cornbread and our cabbage and all the good stuff. So I'm pleased with the amount I'm going to get. I just can't stop looking at them. So I hope your Sunday is going well. I'll go back to the doctor in the morning and we're going to have a few tests run. But other than that, today's been my best day in 9 days. So I don't think I'm doing too bad. But as always, stay safe, stay well, and God bless. Lippy's back.